Hey there, I'm Dr. Midnight. Sit back, grab a drink, and let's take a quiet walk into the strange. You're safe here. For now. By the time I realized I'd made a mistake, something was already chasing me through the dark. Branches whipped my face, roots grabbed at my boots, and the beam from my headlamp jittered over black trunks and white bark like I was shaking the world itself. I could hear it behind me. Heavy, uneven impacts that didn't sound like hooves so much as a demolition crew with bad aim. I had the camera clutched to my chest, still recording. Of course it was. If I was going to die out here, I was damn well determined to vlog it. Move, Ethan, I gasped out loud because talking to myself had always been how I dealt with stress. Come on, man. All those cardio days weren't for nothing. Something crashed through the trees behind me, wood snapping, splinters flying. The sound shoved me in the back like a physical thing. I didn't look. Looking felt like a good way to trip and turn into a headline, YouTuber becomes goat snack. The path, if you could call it that, dropped suddenly. My foot slid on loose dirt and I pinwheeled, nearly losing the camera. Instinct won over terror. I hugged it closer. I could break my neck, sure, but the cannon was coming with me. I saw the hollow log at the last second, an old giant laid on its side. Interior black as a tunnel. I dove for it like it was home base in the world's worst game of tag. The impact knocked the wind out of me. Dead wood scraped my elbows as I scrambled deeper in, twisting my shoulders to fit. The camera smacked my jaw. I bit my tongue hard enough to taste iron. Outside, something thundered past, so close the ground under my ribs trembled. The hooves, oh yeah, they were hooves now, slowed, stopped. I froze. My breath roared in my own ears. Every instinct begged me to hold it in, but my lungs had a different opinion. I dragged in air through my nose in tiny, shaky sips. The headlamp had been knocked sideways, shining back at me off the inside curve of the log. It lit up flakes of rotted bark, spider webs, and my own face reflected dimly in the little flip-out camera screen. Pale, wide-eyed, streak of dirt across my cheek like war paint applied by someone with a tremor. "Okay," I whispered, barely moving my lips. "Okay, this is fine, this is content." The forest went quiet in that thick, smothered way that isn't really silence at all. It's like the world is holding its breath with you. Somewhere off to the right, something exhaled, long, slow, almost curious. I swallowed, turned the camera so the lens pointed at me. The little red light blinked, faithful and stupid. My hands shook so badly that the frame jittered. "If anyone finds this," I whispered. My voice sounded wrong, like someone doing a bad impression of me. "My name is Ethan Mercer. Channel name is Uncharted Wilds. I came to Pine Hollow to film a Goatman episode because I wanted 1 million subscribers, and apparently I hate myself." Leaves crunched outside, soft, deliberate steps circling the log. Whatever was out there wasn't in a hurry. It was taking its time. I forced a smile for the lens. It felt like it belonged on the wrong face. "So if you're watching this, congrats. You just made my last video go viral." A shadow slid across the dim circle of daylight at the far end of the log. The steps stopped. For a heartbeat, there was nothing. Then from somewhere out in the trees, a voice called my name. "Ethan?" My voice. 2 days earlier, everything was perfect. The world was bright. The wind smelled like pine and dust, and I was halfway through my standard vlog intro speech. One hand on the steering wheel, the other gesturing too much for comfort. "Hey folks, Ethan here, back with Uncharted Wilds." I grinned into the dash-mounted camera. The road stretched ahead like a cracked brown ribbon, winding through endless forest. Civilization had given up a dozen miles back. "This week's challenge," I continued, "is a special one. I'm heading out to Pine Hollow Trail, yes, that Pine Hollow, where campers have been disappearing for, 20 years or so. Locals say it's the work of a shape-shifting monster called the Goatman. I say it's just bad trail mix and worse navigation." I gave the camera a wink. Either way, we're about to find out. I pulled into the only gas station for miles, a place that looked like it had survived the apocalypse by pretending to already be dead. The sign buzzed weakly overhead, one flickering letter away from spelling gas demon. Inside, it smelled like old oil and older coffee. A bell jingled half-heartedly as I stepped in, camera rolling. "Hey there," I called, keeping my tone chipper. "Mind if I ask you a few questions about Pine Hollow?" The clerk looked up from behind the counter. He was thin, sun-creased, and had a face like someone had carved it from driftwood and then changed their mind halfway through. His eyes flicked to my camera. "You one of those YouTube boys?" he asked, voice like gravel and whiskey. "Guilty," I said, flashing my best PR smile. "Uncharted wilds, I camp, I survive, I get mosquito bites for views." He stared for a long second, then snorted. "Another sucker for the old goat." I froze mid-laugh. "Sorry, what?" He just shrugged, leaning on the counter. "You folks come through every now and then, thinking you'll catch it on tape. Nobody ever does." He tapped his temple. "If they make it back." I tried to keep the mood light. "Well, lucky for me, I brought bug spray and optimism." He didn't laugh. Back outside, I loaded my pack into the truck bed and checked my gear. Tent, GoPro, solar charger, drone, med kit. Everything was neatly labeled and ready. My subscribers loved prep montages, and this one would be cinematic. "All right, team," I said to the lens. "Time to earn those clicks." The trailhead wasn't marked, just a narrow dirt road swallowed by trees. As I drove in, GPS lost signal. My phone's screen blinked from blue to black, leaving only the tiny red record light to keep me company. A cold shiver crawled up the back of my neck, but I laughed it off. Great, lost signal, which means I'm officially in the wild. If I vanish, tell my mom I died doing what I loved, being an idiot with a camera. The forest grew denser. The sunlight filtered through in gold shards that felt too heavy, like dust made of glass. Birds sang for a while, then stopped. By the time I parked and stepped out, the silence felt thick enough to chew. I lifted the camera, smiled, and forced enthusiasm. "All right, folks, Pine Hollow Trail, where the Goatman supposedly roams. Let's see if we can make him trend." The red light blinked, the trees swayed, and for the first time that day, I had the uneasy feeling that they were all leaning just slightly toward me. By noon the next day, I was deep into Pine Hollow, filming B-roll of trees, rocks, and my own optimism slowly decaying. The trail was barely a trail anymore, just damp soil and broken branches swallowed by moss. My subscribers loved this kind of stuff, though, the authentic wilderness vibe. I called it getting lost professionally. "All right, folks," I said into the camera, walking backward for dramatic effect. "This is where the last hiker, a guy named Daniel Price, was supposedly seen. If I disappear mid-sentence, please remember to like and subscribe." A mosquito landed on my cheek. I slapped it, missed, and muttered, "Nature smells great but tries to kill you." The first missing campsite wasn't much to look at, just a circle of half-buried stones where a fire pit used to be, a torn piece of tarp flapping from a branch, and a faded sock. I crouched down, focusing the lens on the sock. "Survivor tip," I said, trying to sound confident. "Always bring extra pairs." Someone clearly didn't. Behind the humor, though, the place had a weight to it, a stale, heavy feeling like old air sealed in a jar. I could almost imagine the shapes of people sitting around the vanished campfire, their laughter caught between the trees and never escaping. Further in, I found another sight, this one fresher. A ripped tent collapsed under a tangle of branches. I filmed it from every angle, narrating like a documentary host trying too hard. Note the clean tear, almost like claws, not a knife. Wild animals, maybe, or Goatman's idea of interior design. The wind shifted and brought with it a smell, metallic, sharp, faintly rotten. I swallowed, trying not to show discomfort on camera. "Ah, smells like mystery," I joked weakly. "Or roadkill, one of the two." Then I heard it. "Help me." It came from somewhere deeper in the trees, a man's voice, clear, desperate, echoing through the brush. "Hello?" I called, lowering the camera. "Hey, you all right out there?" The voice came again, closer this time. "Help me." It hit me then, something about the tone, the phrasing. It sounded too even, like a perfect repeat. Same pause, same pitch, a playback. I turned the camera back on myself, trying to smile but feeling my skin crawl. "Okay," I whispered, "either someone's really good at impressions or I'm about to be the punchline of a true crime podcast." I walked toward the sound anyway, because of course I did. Content demands courage or stupidity. Sometimes both. Branches brushed my shoulders as I moved through the undergrowth. The light dimmed. My boots sank into soft mud that smelled like decay. "Help me!" This time it was right ahead. I lifted the camera, breath quickening. The trees thinned into a small clearing filled with golden light. Empty. No person, no sound. I panned the lens slowly across the clearing. Nothing. Then faintly, something caught the light. Scratches on a tree trunk. Deep gouges running down the bark in 3 neat lines. Claw marks. My mouth went dry. I turned the camera on myself again, forcing a grin. Okay, so apparently the Goatman's into abstract tree art. I started to back away, laughing softly to myself. It wasn't convincing. Every instinct in me screamed to leave, but the camera kept rolling. "All right," I whispered. "Day 1, Pine Hollow Trail. Already creepy. Stay tuned. If I start yelling for help, please ignore it." Behind me, deep in the trees, something laughed, very softly. The sound was my own voice. By sunset, the woods had settled into that strange stillness that comes right before full dark. The kind that makes you think the forest is listening. I had my tent pitched, a small fire going, and the camera mounted on a tripod, catching everything in that warm orange glow my audience loved. "All right, campers," I said, waving a half-burnt marshmallow on a stick. Day 1 recap. Found 2 creepy campsites, got yelled at by my own voice, and learned that talking to myself alone in some creepy woods isn't as fun as it sounds. I laughed. It sounded natural enough, but even I could hear the strain under it. The footage looked good. Clean, steady, eerie in all the right ways. I flipped open my laptop and began transferring the files from the camera. Night closed in like a door shutting, and soon only the firelight and the faint screen glow painted the small circle of my world. Somewhere out there, an owl called. Then nothing. The silence pressed against the tent walls like thick fabric. I slipped off my boots and rubbed at my calves. "This," I muttered to the camera still recording in the corner, "is the glamorous life of a survival camping content creator. Sweat, bugs, and existential dread. Smash that like button." The laptop chimed. The transfer was done. I hit play on the first video to review it. Halfway through the clip of the torn tent, I heard something faint in the background, soft, almost playful. Laughter, not on camera. Behind me, I froze. The sound wasn't loud, just enough to tickle the back of my neck. It was close, too close, and yet wrong. The rhythm of it wasn't human, like someone had heard laughter once and was trying to imitate it. I turned slowly, aiming my flashlight at the trees. "Okay," I said to no one in particular. "If that's you, nature, 10 out of 10. Perfect ambiance." The light swept over trunks and leaves and nothing else. The woods looked ordinary, except they felt aware, like 100 eyes blinked out of sight the moment my light touched them. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "If this turns into found footage," I told the camera with a shaky grin, "I hope they use a good thumbnail, maybe a screaming face, red arrow, and a goat emoji." I zipped up the tent and lay down, trying to convince myself it was just the wind, or an animal, or my overworked imagination. The fire outside cracked once, like something had stepped on a branch. My eyes stayed open long after that sound faded. When I finally drifted off, it wasn't restful. My dreams were tangled with sounds, footsteps circling, low chuckling, something dragging across the dirt. At dawn, the light was gray and cold. The fire had long died out. I unzipped the tent and stepped outside, camera already rolling because that's what professionals do, document first, panic later. The forest was quiet. Still, then I saw it, a ring of prints in the mud surrounding my tent, deep, wide, and shaped like split hooves. They went all the way around, no beginning, no end, just a perfect circle, as though something had walked endless loops around me while I slept. I knelt to film them, my breath clouding in the chill. "First shocking moment, folks," I whispered into the lens. "And we're only on day 2. The hoofprints were fresh, and they were facing inward. The camera caught everything that morning, my forced grin, my pale face, the way I kept glancing toward the tree line like I expected it to blink. "All right, folks," I said, zooming in on the prints. We've got definite evidence of something. Either I've been visited by a clumsy horse, or we're officially trending in the supernatural category." I paused, lowering my voice. "And yeah, I'm starting to see why people stopped camping here." I tried to laugh, but it came out thin. The air smelled different that morning, sweet and sour at once, like fruit just starting to rot, the kind of smell that sticks in your throat. Hoofprints trailed off into the woods, deep enough to crush dead leaves flat. Against my better judgment, and because the camera was already running, I followed. The path wound through damp brush and uneven ground. My boots squelched with every step. The deeper I went, the quieter everything became. No birds, no wind. Even my breathing seemed out of place. After a few 100 feet, I stopped dead. The smell hit me first, raw, metallic, thick enough to taste. Then I saw it. A deer carcass hung sprawled over a cluster of thorny branches. Its neck was twisted unnaturally, eyes glassy, tongue blackened. The thorns had pierced clean through the hide, holding it like a grotesque offering. "Okay," I breathed, raising the camera with trembling hands and feeling nauseous. "Guess I'm skipping breakfast." I tried for humor, but my voice cracked halfway through. The lens focused on the pale curve of the animal's ribs, where flies moved like static. The arrangement was too precise, too deliberate. No predator does that. I circled slowly, keeping a wary distance. "Either some psycho taxidermist got creative," I whispered, "or the Goatman really needs to work on his presentation." Something moved above me. A shadow slipped between the branches, quick, smooth, wrong. I jerked the camera upward, but the canopy was still, just the leaves trembling as if they'd been disturbed. "Hello?" My voice sounded ridiculous in the quiet. "If that's you, buddy, big fan of your work, maybe don't, murder me?" A faint rustle answered from deeper in the woods. Then, clear as daylight, my own voice called back, "Hello?" It was perfect. The same pitch, the same inflection, like someone had recorded me and pressed play. I spun, camera whipping with me, breath snagging in my chest. The forest was empty, painted in long stripes of sunlight and shadow. "Very funny," I muttered, heart hammering. "Congratulations, local pranksters. You've successfully scared the shit out of me." No response, just the stillness again. Something about the scene, the dead deer, the imitation voice, felt wrong in a way I couldn't name. Not dangerous exactly, but personal, like a twisted way of saying hello. I backed away, careful not to turn my back completely. My hand was slick around the camera, and I kept talking just to hear something human. "Okay, we're heading back to camp," I said, because while I do enjoy horror movie aesthetics, I prefer mine with catering and a film crew. The trek back took longer than I remembered. Every tree looked the same. I kept catching glimpses of movement, branches twitching, leaves shaking a second too late after I passed. By the time my tent came into view, my nerves were shot. The sight of it, bright nylon against the gloom, felt like seeing home after years away. I collapsed by the fire pit, camera still rolling, chest heaving. "Okay, update," I said between breaths. "The Goatman has either watched too many true crime shows or really wants a collab." Then from the edge of camp, that same voice, mine again, called softly, "Okay, update." I stared toward the sound, the joke dying in my throat. "Guess we're not camping alone after all," I whispered. That night, I built the biggest fire I could justify without starting a forest incident. The flames jumped high, sending sparks into the canopy like tiny warning flares. I sat cross-legged in front of the camera, the fire painting half my face orange and the other half hollow black. "All right, team," I began, forcing a grin. "It's confession time. Day 2 at Pine Hollow, and things are officially getting spooky. We've got mysterious hoofprints, a very dead deer, and my own voice apparently auditioning for ghost radio." I leaned closer to the lens, lowering my tone. "But here's the kicker. Views are up. Like, way up. The last upload broke 40,000 in an hour, so maybe the Goatman's good for business." I laughed softly, but there wasn't much humor in it. The trees flickered behind me, the shadows bending strangely whenever the flames snapped. I picked up a twig and poked at the fire, trying to steady my thoughts. "Look, I know I sound like every idiot in every found footage film ever. Let's stay one more night, guys. What could possibly go wrong? But if I pack up now, this whole trip's just another mediocre camping vlog. The twig caught fire at the tip, and I stared at it until the flame crawled close enough to sting my fingers. I dropped it into the embers and flexed my hand. I'll give it one more night, I said quietly. Just one, for the channel. Something cracked in the darkness behind me, sharp, like a branch under a boot. I jerked the camera around, the firelight flaring against the trees. Nothing, just shadows, the kind that seem to move when you're not looking straight at them. Okay, I said to the lens, voice shaky but trying for humor. Nothing's chasing me yet. Give it 5 minutes. I panned the camera slowly across the tree line. The fire hissed behind me, and for a second the light caught something pale between the trunks. When I swung the lens back, it was gone. My heart hammered in my throat. I swallowed, trying to keep my breathing even. You know, I murmured, maybe I should have picked the episode about edible berries. The wind shifted. The fire bent low, sputtering. The night air turned colder, heavier, like the pressure before a storm. Another snap, closer this time. Then a long, dragging sound like something rough sliding over bark. I lifted the camera again, hands trembling. The beam from the fire only reached so far. Beyond that was pitch black. All right, I whispered. This is the part where the audience starts yelling, "Don't go in there," right? Something flickered in the corner of my eye, movement at the edge of light. I swung the lens toward it, and the firelight caught a shape retreating into the dark. I couldn't see details, only a hint of height and a glint of curved something, horn maybe, or shadow. The sound that followed wasn't a growl or a snarl. It was a laugh, low and ragged, almost amused. I stumbled backward, the camera shaking violently. "Okay, not funny," I barked, my voice cracking. "We're not doing this Blair Witch nonsense." Silence. The fire popped once, spitting sparks into the air. I stared into the woods for a full minute, waiting for anything to move. Nothing did. The night folded back over itself, calm as before. I turned the camera on myself again, face slick with sweat despite the cold. "Second shocking moment, folks," I said, breathless. "Something out there's got jokes. Real classy ones." I forced a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Anyway, see you in the morning, if the Goatman doesn't steal my Wi-Fi." The video ended there, but I kept the fire burning until dawn. I didn't sleep at all. By late morning, the forest looked normal again, too normal. Sunlight dappled the ferns. Birds chirped like someone had hit play on nature's soundtrack, and for a few hours I convinced myself the night had just been my brain doing improv with fear. I kept the camera rolling anyway. "Morning, everyone," I said, forcing cheer into my voice. "Still alive, still human, still slightly terrified at 3 out of 3, not bad. Last night's noises were probably just squirrels, really talented squirrels." The camera caught me smiling, but my hands trembled as I adjusted the tripod. I hadn't told the audience about the laughter. Not yet. Too soon, too weird. Even ghost hunting channels cut the crazy stuff until they have proof. I decided to hike a little further upstream away from camp. The plan was to shoot a midweek morale check segment, me pretending to be confident in a place that clearly scared the shit out of me. The creek flowed through the forest like a silver snake. I followed it, talking to the lens. Local legend says the Goatman mimics voices to lure victims away. So if you ever hear your mom calling from the bushes, maybe don't check it out. A stick cracked behind me. "Funny timing," I muttered, glancing back. No one. I turned the camera toward the trees just in case. Then I heard it. "Ethan?" My stomach dropped. The voice was soft, warm, unmistakable. My mother's. I hadn't heard it in months, not since she moved out west. "Ethan, honey, come here." For half a second, instinct took over. I actually stepped forward before my brain caught up. My mom wasn't here. She couldn't be. The sound came from deep in the forest, too smooth to echo right. I forced a shaky laugh. "Okay, Goatman, nice try. Points for emotional manipulation." The woods stayed silent. "Man," I muttered to the camera, "you'd think after years on YouTube I'd be used to disembodied voices. Comment sections are scarier." I turned to head back to camp. That's when I noticed something that made my mouth go dry. My tripod, the one I'd left near the fire pit, was standing 10 feet away from where it had been, and the camera mounted on it was aimed directly at my sleeping bag. I froze. "Okay," I said slowly. "Either I'm developing sleepwalking cinematography skills, or someone's been filming my REM cycles." The trees whispered faintly in the breeze, but that was all. I picked up the tripod, checked the camera. The battery light blinked red. I pressed playback. The footage showed me sleeping, motionless except for the slow rise and fall of the blanket. The timestamp rolled on for nearly 2 hours. Then, just before the recording ended, something stepped briefly into the edge of the frame. A shape, tall, thin. Its head dipped low, almost like it was studying me. The moment I breathed, it turned toward the camera, and the image warped. Static burst across the screen, then darkness. The clip ended. My voice cracked as I spoke, trying to sound calm. "Right. So, that's not creepy at all." I glanced around, every hair on my arm standing upright. That night I set up the satellite rig beside the campfire, every cable and battery meticulously arranged, as if organization could hold my nerves together. The camera's little red light blinked like a heartbeat in the dark. "All right, everyone," I said, voice steadier than I felt. "Welcome to the first ever Uncharted Wilds live stream from Pine Hollow Trail, home of legends, lies, and possibly my last paycheck." The chat window on my laptop began to fill. "Let's go, you're crazy, bro, watch your back." Watching those messages pop up in real time felt comforting, like I wasn't as alone as the trees wanted me to think. "Okay, so here's the deal," I continued. "Locals say the Goatman mimics people to lure them in. Tonight I'm setting up 3 cameras in a triangle around camp. If anything moves, we'll see it. If nothing does, well, I'll just look paranoid online again." The chat loved that one. Emojis rolled like applause. I grinned despite myself. See, potential death is great for engagement. As the last trace of sunlight vanished, I took a deep breath. The forest hushed. The fire popped. The wind stirred, crickets chirped. The audience teased me gently about chasing myths. I was just about to call it when the first sound came, faint laughter drifting between the trees. The chat froze for a second, then exploded. "Did you hear that? Bro, there's someone out there. Run!" I swallowed. "Relax, everyone," I said, smiling too wide. Maybe the Goatman saying hello. Then another sound joined it, my own voice. "Relax, everyone." The words echoed from the woods, perfectly timed, same inflection. My audience fell silent. The fire hissed. That's not playback," I whispered. The echo came again, closer now, followed by a rough, scraping breath that didn't belong to me. The stream's feed stuttered. Pixels broke apart. The chat spammed. "We can see something behind you." I turned the camera slowly. The firelight reached only so far before the dark took over, but in that wavering edge between light and shadow, something stepped forward. It was tall. Its shoulders nearly brushed the low branches. Horns, curved, black, gleaming, rose from its head. But worse than that was the face. It was mine. Not perfectly, more like a melted reflection. My own features stretched, eyes wrong, grin too wide, teeth too long. It moved its mouth as I whispered, a few beats late, like a bad lip sync. The chat went insane. Caps lock, screaming emojis, messages flashing faster than I could read. "Okay," I croaked, voice breaking. We've definitely got something." The creature's grin twitched wider. It took a step forward. The stream glitched again, frames freezing, audio breaking into a mechanical screech. For a heartbeat, the image split. 2 Ethans side by side. Then everything dissolved into static. Viewers would later swear they heard laughter through the distortion, mine and not mine overlapping like bad harmony. The feed cut to black. I didn't end it. It ended itself. The camera's view jolts back to life mid-motion, my hand gripping it tight, beam from the headlamp swinging wild arcs through the black forest. Breath ragged, words coming in bursts. "Something's out here with me. I saw it. No joke, no joke." Branches snapped underfoot as I stumbled downhill. The fire was long gone behind me, only darkness chasing. Each breath scraped my throat like sandpaper. I wasn't filming for views anymore. I was filming because I needed the light. "Okay, folks," I panted, half laughing, half crying. "This is where the survival tips come in handy. Rule number 1, don't taunt things with horns." A crash echoed to my left, thunder in the trees. I whipped the camera that way. For a split second, the lens caught movement. Long limbs, pale face, horns slicing through the branches. "Not real," I whispered, backing away. "You're just overworked, man. You've been editing too much." Something exhaled behind me, wet, hot, close enough that my neck hairs lifted. I spun and ran, tripping over roots, the camera smacking against my chest. Static flickered across the viewfinder each time it swung. When I finally stopped, gasping, I found myself in a clearing lit by a single shaft of moonlight. My fireproof tarp, one I'd packed at camp, was spread neatly in the middle, as though waiting. My gear lay on top of it, perfectly arranged. "No," I breathed, shaking my head. No, I didn't." From the tree line came that awful imitation voice again, my voice, calm, steady. "This is uncharted wilds, signing off from the wild." I froze. Every muscle turned to glass. It spoke again, exactly the same way, but closer. "This is uncharted wilds, signing off from the wild." I raised the camera, slowly panning. The light slid across tree trunks, fog, nothing, until it landed on a shape standing 20 feet away. Tall, thin, horned. Its face flickered in and out of recognition, features sliding like clay under fingers. My face tried on a dozen wrong smiles. It began walking toward me. I stumbled backwards, the camera shaking violently. "Stay back," I yelled. I'll... I had no idea what came next. "I'll call the cops." A low, shuddering laugh rippled from its chest. I bolted. The forest folded around me, trees crowding too close, roots snaring at my boots. The beam of my light cut through mist and nothing more. Behind me the thing followed, its footsteps alternating between hooves and bare feet. I ducked under a fallen tree, heart hammering so loud it drowned the world. Crawling into the hollow beneath the trunk, I aimed the camera back toward the clearing. The lens trembled. Static crawled along the edges of the screen. Something moved past the opening, tall silhouette, horns gleaming, head turning slightly as if listening. It paused. The breath that escaped it was almost human, almost curious. Then it crouched. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dark, reflecting my own light. I clapped a hand over my mouth to keep quiet. The camera picked up every faint tremor of my breath. A low chuckle rolled through the night, so close I felt it in my chest. "This is uncharted wilds, signing off from the wild." The same words again, but this time whispered from just outside the log. The camera glitched, the image fracturing into lines of red and black. I pressed myself against the dirt, whispering, "Please, just leave." Then came a heavy scrape against the bark above me. Clawed fingers. The lens caught one last flicker of movement, a horned shadow bending low, the suggestion of a smile too wide for any human face. The screen dissolved into static, then black. Silence. Only the sound of shallow breathing, then nothing at all. A week later, a pair of park rangers stumbled upon the remains of the camp near Pine Hollow Creek. They'd been sent after a few locals reported strange noises, metallic laughter. They found the tent collapsed and clawed through, the fire pit overturned, the trees around it gouged with deep parallel slashes. No sign of Ethan Mercer, just a camera, half buried in mud, still blinking red like a heartbeat that refused to die. The report said the device had been running for almost 2 full days after Ethan vanished. The footage was corrupted, glitches, skipped frames, audio full of static and breath. But there were pieces that played. The last clear frame showed the forest floor tilted sideways. The camera lay on its side, lens cracked but still working. Through the fractured glass, you could see movement, branches swaying, faint mist curling across the dirt. Then a hand slid into view. It wasn't Ethan's hand. It was too long, the skin too gray, fingers ending in blunt, blackened tips. The hand reached for the camera, paused, and a low chuckle bubbled through the speakers, half bleat, half laugh. The screen trembled, static crawling in from the edges. Just before the battery died, a voice, Ethan's voice, calm and cheerful, spoke one last time. This is Uncharted Wilds, signing off from the wild. Then nothing. The Rangers sealed the footage as evidence and closed the file under unresolved. The official cause of death was listed as missing, presumed deceased, but that wasn't the end. 3 nights later, subscribers to Uncharted Wilds got a notification. A new upload. No title card, no thumbnail, just a black screen and a timestamp. In the first few seconds, you could hear heavy breathing, followed by the faint creak of branches. Then Ethan's voice spoke again, perfectly clear. "Hey folks, Ethan here, back with Uncharted Wilds. Today we're heading somewhere new." The video ended abruptly after 8 seconds. Most viewers thought it was a hoax, a hacker, a publicity stunt. But a handful swore that if you listened with headphones, you could hear something else faintly underneath his voice, the sound of hooves scraping against stone. The account went silent after that. No more videos, no more posts. The channel banner changed a week later to a single image, a black forest under a full moon, with a caption in faint red letters, "Another sucker for the old goat." And somewhere deep in Pine Hollow, if you walk the trails after dark, you can still hear him laughing softly into the dark, telling no one in particular, "Remember to like and subscribe." I'm Dr. Midnight. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.